This is Mastercaster, taking you from zero to podcasting hero. And now here is your host, Neil Butler.
In this episode, I'd like to talk to you about the equipment you will need if you choose to set up your own podcast recording studio. Just to set some expectations, I won't be doing a comprehensive review of equipment. There are plenty of other websites and YouTube channels that do that. They'll make sure that they keep their reviews up to date as new models and devices are released. The other source of good advice on equipment is your local sound equipment store. Find a reputable store that you can contact to discuss your requirements. If you'd like our recommendations, please contact us via the Mastercaster website. Also, please note that the indicative prices I mention in this episode are as they were at the time of recording. They will vary according to exchange rates and also the features that are provided in new models. First and foremost, you need some equipment to record your content. In most cases, this will be your computer. Make sure that you have a computer that has sufficient storage space and processing speed. There are a couple of alternatives to using your computer to record the audio, which we'll talk about later, but for now, let's assume that you are using your PC or Mac computer. There are several software options for you to choose from, including the built-in recording software on your computer, but two products that I've used successfully are Audacity and Adobe Audition. Both do similar things. They record the input to the computer, and in both cases you can record that input in multitrack. Multitrack simply means that if the input comes through as separate tracks, you can increase and decrease sound levels on those individual tracks to create your final output. Both products are available for PC and Mac, and both allow you to perform the editing tasks that we will talk about in a future episode. Now that we've talked about the equipment that actually records the audio, we need to consider the microphones and other audio inputs you need, such as telephone lines, music tracks, etc. Before we get started, we should talk about the two main types of microphones that are available, condenser and dynamic. Without going into any great detail here, they're built differently and have different characteristics. In very broad terms, condenser mics typically produce a crisper sound, but also tend to pick up more background noise. Dynamic mics are generally more forgiving, although not quite as crisp. For reference, I'm recording these episodes using a Rode Procaster microphone, a dynamic microphone that I purchased for around $250. If you're presenting a solo podcast, you'll be able to use a USB microphone. As the name suggests, these microphones plug directly into a USB port on your computer. This will provide a much better sound than relying on the microphone that is built into your computer. USB mics are typically condenser mics and so will provide a crisper sound, but remember they'll also likely pick up the sounds of ducted heating, lip and tongue sounds, etc. A good USB microphone will cost you in the vicinity of $150. One popular microphone is the Blue Yeti USB microphone, available for less than $200. One advantage that the Blue Yeti has over other USB microphones is a feature that allows you to choose one of four modes: cardioid for solo podcasting, stereo for recording music, bidirectional for recording two people sitting opposite one another, and omnidirectional for recording from all directions around the microphone. This flexibility allows you to choose the right mode for each different set of circumstances. It's particularly good if you're going to be doing one-on-one interviews with guests. Another option is the lavalier or lapel microphone. These are the small microphones that you see television presenters wearing. They come with a 3.5mm plug on them, the same size as a normal small headphone plug. This means that it can plug directly into the side of some computers, mobile phones, and tablets. Just make sure that your hardware supports this type of microphone before you purchase one. You can get a good lavalier microphone for less than $100. The next step up from the USB and lapel microphones requires an audio interface or mixer. Conventional condenser and dynamic microphones have the 3-pin XLR plug that requires a device to sit between the microphone and your computer. Let me talk about microphones before we move on to audio interfaces. As mentioned earlier, there are two distinct types of microphone, dynamic and condenser. Everyone has their own opinion about which is better for podcasters, and the reality is that there is no correct answer. Your best bet is to visit your local sound equipment store and try a few different mics out if you can. My preferred brand is Rode, primarily because they're an Australian brand and their equipment works for me. The two microphones I would recommend from their range are the Procaster, the one I'm using at the moment for around $250, and the PodMic, the second microphone in my studio, which cost me around $150. Both are excellent microphones and have served me well for podcasting. That said, there are many other brands that are worth considering. Your best bet is to speak to your local expert. A simple audio interface allows you to plug one or more XLR microphones in as your input and then transfers the mixed output to your computer via a USB cable. These simple audio interfaces only allow the mixed content to be received by your computer, so they won't allow you to adjust the individually recorded levels. This shouldn't be a problem as long as you have the individual sound levels adjusted correctly on the interface. The simplest audio interfaces allow one microphone to be plugged in. The more money you spend, the more input and output channels you'll have available to you. The simple 1 or 2 channel interfaces start at around $100, although the ones I have used have been closer to the $200 mark. If you have a number of different types of input for your podcast, you may be better suited to using a mixer rather than an audio interface. That would be a good question to ask your local sound equipment shop. There's one piece of equipment that I should tell you about if your budget allows you to consider it. I use the Rodecaster Pro, which is described as an integrated podcast production studio, but will cost you in the vicinity of $900. The Rodecaster Pro has 4 XLR input channels, which means you can plug in 4 microphones, a USB input, which enables you to use content from your computer, a TRRS channel, which enables you to plug your mobile phone into the desk, plus a Bluetooth channel for an additional phone or Bluetooth device. This means that you could have 7 different devices connected into your podcast at the one time, 4 directly and 3 via online or telephone channels. The added bonus is that all channels can be recorded separately onto your computer or the built-in micro SD card, allowing you to edit it as a multi-track recording. This is an expensive setup. When you bundle it with microphones, it will take your setup costs to more like $2,000. If you can afford it and can justify the cost, you can't go wrong with this setup. In our next episode, I'll chat to you about portable recording devices and how you can use online audio and video services to record your episodes.
This has been another episode of Mastercaster. For more information about Mastercaster or the other services provided by Untypical Media, please visit www.mastercaster.co or follow Mastercaster on Facebook and LinkedIn.